Hey everyone, I dyed my hair for the first time. I hope you like it. Let's get started. We are going to multiply fractions by whole numbers. Okay, let's learn to multiply fractions by a whole. So when you're multiplying fractions by a whole number, rewrite the whole number over 1 so it looks like you're multiplying two fractions. So we're not going to multiply a fraction by 2, we would multiply it by 2 over 1. That equals 2. We wouldn't multiply by 10, we'd multiply by 10 over 1. And we wouldn't multiply by 25, we multiply by 25 over 1. Then we can multiply the numerator and the denominator and divide to simplify the improper fraction. Let's start with number 1. For these set of problems, we are going to get an answer that comes out as a mixed number. So 4 cakes times, we're multiplying 3/8. Instead of just multiplying by the whole of 4, we can change it into a fraction, 4 over 1, which equals 4. And we multiply that by 3/8. When we're multiplying, the denominator can be different and it can change. So we first multiply the numerators. 4 times 3 equals 12. 1 times 8 equals 8, and we get 12/8. This is an improper fraction, so we need to change it into a mixed number or change it into a DAD. To do that, we can determine 8 times what gets me close to 12 without going over. I know 8 times 1 equals 8, so 1 is going to be my whole. And then 8 plus something equals 12. I know 8 plus 4 equals 12. So my numerator is 4. I just added on to get the numerator. And then D, denominator stays the same. I get an answer of 1 4/8. Number 2, 3/8 of 10 cookies. Of means we're going to multiply. So we can do 3/8 times not just 10, but 10 over 1, which equals 10. We're multiplying, so our denominators do not have to be the same. 3 times 10 equals 30. 8 times 1 equals 8. And I get 30 over 8. This is an improper fraction. I need to turn it into a mixed number. I'm going to determine 8 times what gets me close to 30 without going over. I know 8 times 3 equals 24. So my whole is going to be 3. 24 plus something equals my numerator, which is 30. So I'm going to add on to my numerator. And 24 plus 6 equals 30. So my numerator is 6, my denominator is 8, and I get a mixed number of 3 6/8. Number 3, 8 pizzas times 4/10. So I'm going to change 8 pizzas into the fraction, 8 over 1, which still equals 8, times 4/10. I'm multiplying, so my denominators do not have to be the same. 8 times 4 equals 32, and 1 times 10 equals 10. I have an improper fraction, more than a whole, in the numerator, so I need to determine 10 times what gets me close to 32 without going over. I know 10 times 3 equals 30. So 3 is going to be my whole. Then I add on to get the numerator. 30 plus something equals 32. I know 30 plus 2 would equal 32, so that's going to be my numerator. My denominator stays the same, it's 10, and I get 3 2/10. Number 4, 2/4 of 3 subs. Of means we are going to multiply. So 2/4 times, we can change our whole into the fraction, 3 over 1, which still equals 3. We're multiplying, so the denominators do not have to be the same. 2 times 3 equals 6. 4 times 1 equals 4. I get 6/4, an improper fraction with more than a whole in my numerator. So I can change it into a mixed number. 4 times what gets me close to 6 without going over. 4 times 1 equals 4. So my whole will be 1. 4 plus something gets me to my numerator of 6. 4 plus 2 equals 6. So 2 is my numerator. My denominator stays the same to get a mixed number of 1 2/4. Number 5, 6/10 times 8 steaks. 6/10 times my whole, which I'm going to turn into the fraction 8/1, which equals 8. I'm multiplying, so my denominators don't have to be the same. 6 times 8 equals 48. 10 times 1 equals 10. I have an improper fraction. There's more than a whole in my numerator, so I need to change it to a mixed number. I'm going to determine 10 times what gets me close to 48 without going over. Well, 10 times 4 equals 40, so 4 is going to be my whole. And then I'm going to add on to get the numerator, 48. I know 40 plus 8 equals 48, so my numerator is 8. And my denominator stays the same, it's 10, to get a mixed number of 4 and 8/10. Number 6, 3 pies of, which means multiply, 2/4. I'm going to change the whole 3 pies into the fraction 3/1, which still equals 3, times 2/4. I'm multiplying, so my denominators don't have to be the same. 3 times 2 equals 6. 1 times 4 equals 4. To get 6/4, an improper fraction, so I can determine 4 times what gets me close to 6 without going over. 4 times 1 equals 4. Add on to get the numerator. 4 plus something equals 6. 4 plus 2 equals 6. So, oops, I forgot to circle my whole here. So my whole is 1. My numerator that I added on is 2. My denominator stays the same at 4 to get a mixed number of 1 and 2/4. Okay, on the back, this time our answers are going to be a whole number. So when we make improper fractions, they are going to have really, really big numerators or really big heads. So we do 5/9 and we're multiplying times 27 pies. So 5/9 times 27/1, which equals 27. Now I need to multiply 5 times 27. If I don't have a calculator, I'm going to have to write it out, 27 times 5, and do the disco. 5 times 7 is 35. Add the regroup. 5 times 2 is 10. Add the regroup 3 to get 135. So my numerator is 135. That is a really, really big head. And my denominator is 9 times 1. So I get 135/9. Now I can't just determine 9 times what gets me close to 135 without going over, because I don't know my nines facts all the way up past 100. So I'm going to have to look at this as division. I know 135/9 is the same thing as 135 divided by 9. So my 135 is my dividend. 9 is the divisor, and I'm going to do a long division problem. If I have one Smartie, I don't have enough to share with 9 kids, so I'll underline 13. Now I have enough, so I can draw a box around 13 and a box around 5. I'm determining 9 times what gets me close to 13 without going over. That would be 1. 9 kids, each gets 1 Smartie. 9 times 1 equals 9. Then I'm subtracting. 13 minus 9 equals 4. Compare 4 Smarties, 9 kids. I can't keep passing out, so I bring up the 4 in front of the 5. And I repeat because I have another box. 9 times what gets me close to 45 without going over? That would be 9 times 5 equals 45. Multiply, subtract, compare 0 to 9. I don't have enough to keep passing out, so my remainder is 0. So that means 135/9 is the same as 15, a whole number. Let's look at number 8. 48 cakes times 3/8. So I'm going to write 48 as a fraction, 48/1, times 3/8. 48 times 3, if I don't have a calculator, I have to actually solve it with the disco. So 48 times 3, tree times skate equals dentiflora 24. Tree times door equals elf 12. Add the regroup plus 2 equals 14 to get 144. Denominator 1 times 8 equals 8. I can't determine 8 times what gets me to 144 because I don't know my 8 facts all the way up past 100. So I'm going to need to look at it as division. 144 divided by 8. So 144 is my dividend. 8 is my divisor. 1 is not enough to share. 14 is. Draw my box around 14. 8 times what gets me close to 14? That would be 1. 8 times 1 equals 8. Subtract. 14 minus 8 equals 6. Compare. 6 is smaller, so I can bring up the 6. Repeat because I have another box. Determine 8 times what gets me close to 64 without going over. That would be 8. Multiply. 8 times 8 equals 64. Subtract 0. Compare 0 to 8. I can't keep passing out, so I bring it up, and it is a remainder of 0 because I don't have another box. So my answer is 18, a whole number. Number 9, 6/8 of 72 cookies. Of means multiply. So I'm going to do 6/8 times 72 over 1. To multiply fractions, I start with the numerator. 6 times 72. I'm going to have to do the disco to figure that out. 72 times 6. 6 times 2 equals 12. 6 times 7 equals 42. Add the regroup, plus 1, 43. So my numerator is 432. 8 times 1 equals 8. So I'm going to have to do 432 divided by 8. 432 is my dividend. 8 is my divisor. If I underline the 4, I don't have enough to give to 8 kids, so I'm going to underline 43. Draw my boxes. 8 times what gets me close to 40 without going over? That would be 5. Multiply. Or 8 times what gets me close to 43 without going over? And that's 8 times 5 equals 40. Then I subtract to get 3. 3 is less than 8, so I bring up my 3. And I have to repeat because I have another box. I determine 8 times what gets me close to 32 without going over? That's 4. Multiply. 8 times 4 equals 32. Subtract to get 0. That's less than 8. Remainder of 0. So my answer is 54. Number 10, 56 pizzas times 4/7. So I'm going to multiply 56 the whole, but make it a fraction, 56 over 1, times 4/7. 56 times 4, I'm going to need to do the disco. 4 times 6 equals 24. 4 times 5 equals 20. Add the regroup 2 to get 22. So my numerator is 224. And then 1 times 7 is 7. So I need to divide 224, my dividend. 7 is my divisor. Underline the 2. Not enough to pass out to 7 kids, so I underline 22 and draw my box. 7 times what gets me close to 22 without going over? That would be 3. 7 times 3 equals 21. Subtract to get 1. 1 is less than 7, so I bring up the 1, and I need to repeat. 7 times what gets me close to 14 without going over? 2. 7 times 2 equals 14. Subtract 0. 0 is less than 7. Bring up the 0 for a remainder of 0. So my answer for this one is the whole number 32. Number 11, 8/9 times 72 subs. So I'm going to multiply 8/9 times 72 over 1. I have to do 72 times 8 with the disco. 8 times 2 equals 16. 7 times 8 is 56. Add the regroup plus 1 to get 57. My numerator is 576. Get my denominator. 9 times 1 equals 9. I'm going to need to divide. 576 is my dividend. 9 is my divisor. I'm looking at 57. Box around that. Box around 6. 9 times what gets me close to 57 without going over? Put a 6. 9 times 6 equals 54. Subtract to get 2. Compare. Oops. 57 minus 54 is not 2. It would be 3. So make sure you have 3 there. Then compare. 3 compared to 9. 3 is less, so I can bring up the 3. And I need to repeat. 9 times what gets me close to 36 without going over? 9 times 4 equals 36. Then we subtract 0, and it is a remainder of 0 because it is less than 9. So my answer equals 64. All right, last one. 27 brownies times 5/9. Turn 27 into a fraction over 1. 27 over 1 times 5/9. First multiply the numerator. 27 times 5. 5 times 7 is 35. 5 times 2 is 10. Add the regroup 3 to get 135. That's my numerator. To get my denominator, 1 times 9 equals 9. I'm going to need to divide. 135 is my dividend. 9 is my divisor. Draw your box around 13 and 5. 9 times what gets me close to 13 without going over? That would be 1. 9 times 1 equals 9. 13 minus 9 equals 4. Compare. 4 is less than 9. Bring up the 4. Repeat because I have another box. 9 times 5 equals 45. Then I subtract to get 0, less than 9. Bring up my 0 for my remainder to get an answer of 15. I don't know what happened, but my hair turned green. I must have accidentally got color-changing hair dye. How does it look? Good luck with your math homework. I gotta go try to fix this. Bye.